Well, good morning everyone and welcome to this first Text Talk initiated by the European Textile Leadership Group and the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. My name is Mieke Evers. I'm from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, and together with Julia Blaze from EuRIC, Jana Zurkova from RREUSE, Katarina Matsai from CNA Fedemoda, and the Secretariat, we co-organized today's webinar, and we would like to welcome you all on this webinar about how European policy can drive circularity in textiles. Before we start, I would like to point you out to some of the house rules of today. If you haven't done so, and if you're able to, I would like to ask you all to rename yourself, starting with your full name and then your organization. This way we can see who is joining us today. So if you have any questions or remarks, or if you would like to share any information, please use the chat. And since we have a lot of speakers today, please, if possible, indicate to whom the question is directed to. For the rest, I would like to point out that this event is recorded. And as you are all aware of, please switch off your microphone if you're not presenting. The agenda and program of today. Well, it's really exciting. The first part of the program is the policy panel, where 4 speakers will tell us more about how European policy can drive circular textiles. And I'm very honored that today is joining us first Emiel Bruls from Rijkswaterstaat, Paola Migliori from European Commission, Dilara Burkhardt, a member of the European Parliament, and Gerard Kreuzer from the European Economic and Social Committee. The second part of this morning's program will be the stakeholder platform, and the stakeholders and presenters I will introduce to you later. We are on a very tight time schedule with a lot of interesting speakers, so I would specifically like to remind all the speakers to keep track of your time, and if possible, use your timer. And I will use my wave function to let you know that there's still 1 minute left and that it's time to wrap up your presentation. For now, I would like to ask Emiel Bruls from Rijkswaterstaat to join the floor. And well, let's hear what Emiel Bruls has to say.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm going to present to you a presentation about what we are doing in the Netherlands on circular textiles. I hope you can see my presentation.
No, we cannot see it yet. Not yet.
I have to switch. Wait a minute. Yes, I hope you can see it now.
Yes, we can. Perfect.
Great. Well, my name is Emiel Bruls. I work for the Dutch agency Rijkswaterstaat, which is part of the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management. And our minister is also responsible for the environment. Last year, 2020, our minister presented to Parliament a policy program on circular textiles. In the Netherlands, by 2050, we want to become a fully circular economy. And for textiles, this means that in 2025, we like 25% of materials used in new textiles should be either recycled or sustainable. In 2030, this should be 50%, of which 30% is recycled at least, and 20% sustainable. A next goal of our policy program is that 30% after end of life of all textiles put on the Dutch market are to be recycled. Also, this in 2030 should be 50%. And a final a final goal of the policy program in 2025 is that we also say that reuse of textiles products collected after end of life is a goal. 10% of reuse of textile products should be reused within the Netherlands. By 2030, 15%. In 2035, we would like to reach a reduction of the ecological footprint of textiles by 50%. If you're looking for the policy document, there is a link in this presentation, and I hope the presentation will be sent to you afterwards. Where are we now? Well, in the you can see that the blue is the goal, and in 2018, the purple red color, we were still far away of this goal. So there's a lot of work to do, and we're taking a collaborative approach with all stakeholders in the supply chain doing their efforts, producers and retailers, but also textiles and waste collectors and recyclers. And what is really important as well is to reach our goals, we need an ambitious European textile strategy. I will now dig deep a little bit into what we are saying. We are on the design and production stage of textiles. We will in the Netherlands introduce extended producer responsibility for textiles by 2023. This was presented to Parliament a month ago, and both the producers, retailers, and our government are now working on a proposal for this EPR system. It will be a mandatory system. Another thing we are doing is the denim deal, which is a collaborative covenant in Amsterdam with many stakeholders in the field of denim. And what we are doing is that we like to produce 3 million pairs of jeans with 20% PCR, so post-consumer recycled cotton. And we like to introduce an industry standard of at least 5% PCR for all other denim garments. We're also working on the Dutch Circular Textile Valley, which is a collaborative effort to make better recycling possible. Also, we are updating the international CSR agreement. The first agreement was focusing on social and environmental issues in production countries. The new one will also have a focus on circular economy. When you're looking at the buying and use phase, we are thinking we are going to introduce a consumer behavior campaign as Dutch government on fast fashion, which aims at consumers buying less and buying more secondhand. E-commerce is also an issue. As you know, in the past COVID times, buying online has exploded, and we see there are several good things, but there are also problems we need to tackle. For instance, the large amount of items returned and then never being sold again. Microplastics is an issue. I won't go in detail about this. And circular public procurement. In the Netherlands, about 15% of all purchases are done by governments or public organizations. So we can set an example and we can change the market. So for instance, in the Netherlands, national government is now purchasing workwear, which is always containing recycled fibers. At the end of life, we also need to do a lot. For instance, the quality of textiles collection is not so good. So we have made a handbook for municipalities to improve the quality of textiles collection. And that is necessary because by 2025, textiles collection is mandatory in Europe. So there will be more quantity, but quality should improve as well. And when we've collected all these textiles, it can be either reused, but a lot needs to be recycled as well. And at this moment, there's still no business case for this because, well, it's costing money. It's not profitable. So we need to think about this. For instance, by developing both mechanical and chemical recycling technology. What can the EU do? What we think is really important, we've made a non-paper for the Commission as the ministry. What is necessary is that a mandatory European EPR system would be there for textiles. I can say we are not going to wait for it because our EPR system will be introduced. But it would be very useful if there was something like a harmonized system. Next is that we think it's important that eco-design principles such as design for circularity, longevity, repair are introduced, for instance, in the Ecodesign directive. So I cannot see my own presentation anymore. Yeah, and product requirements are also important. For instance, a mandatory percentage of recycled content in new products. Important as well is the phasing out of harmful substances like PFAS. What we also like is a mandatory labeling system for consumers so they can see whenever they buy a garment what the environmental and social impact of that garment is. Also, we would like to see a ban on destroying unsold textiles, as I explained before. An investment in high quality recycling capacity in the European Union is also very important because when in 25 all these garments will be collected separately all over Europe, we need recycling capacity. And when this recycling capacity is there, we also will need the market to buy these recycled fibers. So new garments should contain recycled fibers. So this is also that we will then sell these recycled fibers to, for instance, production countries like Bangladesh or Turkey or China. And at the same time, these countries need to produce in a sustainable, also in a fair way. For instance, by offering a living wage to workers in the industry, or by having forced labor. And finally, what I like to stress as well is that we need better data, because that is something we see all across Europe. We actually don't know how much textiles are put on the market, what they contain as materials. We need harmonized monitoring, harmonized data. And that's what I want to say to you. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Emile. thanks a lot. Thanks for sharing the Dutch status and ambitions on circular textiles and what we need from the EU. The second speaker of today I would like to join the stage is Paola Miorini. She's from the European Commission. Paola, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and then give you a quick update on where things stand at European level. Also, following the invitation of my previous speakers about what the EU can do, very precious suggestions that we appreciate a lot. You will see, hopefully, that some of these points are precisely what we're working on. What I can say at this point is that we fully realize the need to have a strategic framework for the sector in order for, on one side, to recover from the crisis and at the same time start to build better again. And by the same token, address what we had already identified as the impacts, environmental and social impacts of the sector. So the shortcomings, if you want, in moving towards greater circularity. What we have done so far, next to the announcements of our intentions in the Green Deal and the Circular Economy Action Plan, is to launch a public consultation that is open until the 4th of August, so then we can continue collecting in a written form all the stakeholders' inputs. And at the same time, some of you, I'm sure, already participated in the more thematic workshops that we held in the course of June that addressed some specific items. What we really want, as I said, is ensure the resilient recovery and support the competitiveness of the sector, trying to promote the European leadership of the sector. How we think we can do that? We think we will strengthen the funding available through research and development and innovation program, for example, and this addresses, I'm thinking, some of the requests that were mentioned about the investment in recycling capacity, but not only. There are some supports in infrastructure, but also on development of new materials, development of new innovative technologies, addressing also the environmental issues. I'm thinking about the chemical recycling, but again, all in all, these type of measures will be channeled through supports for research and innovation. The supports in infrastructure are going to be, we will direct stakeholders to the maximum to receive the supports through the channels of the cohesion policies, for example. So a lot of work with public authorities at national, but also at regional level, in order to allow for targeted investments. We are very aware of the need to innovate and to provide new strength and new skills to the market force, to the labor force, sorry. We think we need also to support in a more targeted way SMEs that are the bulk of the industry, very often providing the solutions to the large actors that then acted at global level. We need to see how we can support the SMEs, notably, as it was also highlighted, with intellectual property instruments and standards. We need to join forces with all the stakeholders to develop what has been called the transition pathways. Remember that the textile strategy fits precisely in the scheme of the transition to a circular economy. So this scheme is essentially a change in the industrial way. So we are working together with industry and with our colleagues in DG Grow, for example, to ensure that the announcement of the industrial strategy, the new updated industrial strategy, developing a transition pathway, helping, taking as much as we can by the hand the industry actors that need that, and then provides the right supports to ensure competitiveness. At the same time, engage together with the front runners and show them as model. It's really something that is going to happen. This is a series of, these are measures that are going to be announced in the strategy. But at the same time, we really need to remember why we're doing all this, because we had, before the pandemic, we already had intentions and need to act on the sectors and to reduce the environmental and the social impacts of the activities of the sectors. So which are the measures that we are foreseeing and we're working on? Here also you can see some of the requests that were made will find hopefully good answers, and it's by no means a surprise. It's because of the dialogue that we have had in the past years. So yes, we are looking at eco-design measures. You also know that we are developing a series of initiatives together with the textile strategies and under the larger heading of the European Green Deal and the Circular Economy Action Plan. So we are preparing for the end of this year sustainable product initiatives. So we will also add some measures for eco-design. I don't think you can expect to have those measures by the end of the year. It's only how the procedures are set up with the sustainable product policy initiatives that will expand the Ecodesign directive to non-energy related products. So textile features perfectly there, but this directive functions with implementing act, with a work program. So measures directed to eco-design and to improve, for example, the traceability of the substances and of the materials. I'm thinking about systems of digital product passport informing consumers will phase in the coming years. We are also looking to see how we can improve the labeling, and I'm thinking about also the measures on microplastics. So it's really the whole list, if I can say, the menu that has been given to us. It is being little by little fulfilled with strands of work that we're doing. I like to think that we will manage to have an extended producer responsibility scheme for textiles that goes a little beyond minimum requirements. I cannot, I don't know if that will be possible, but I can assure that we hear the request very, very strongly. We need to see how we can do that. There are also some developments in the due diligence and increasing the international reach out and then the cooperation in order to address some of the issues linked to production outside of Europe. I mentioned the release of microplastics that will also be addressed very likely under the larger initiatives on microplastics that is foreseen for the following year. So I think all in all, you can expect a textile strategy that, as I said, is a strategic framework. So pull together all the measures that exist, so then the sector can understand and can see openly what to expect, what is coming up in the next couple of years in order to change the way it operates. And the last point, I also wanted to say that I think just like the Dutch policy framework has been shown, we are looking to engage with the youth and citizens to address through the angle of fast fashion, in order to reach out and have immediate results at the same time. So I think all in all, you can expect an interesting document. I'm open to questions and hope I can answer them, and then otherwise you will hopefully have your answers by the end of the year with the strategy. I'm very happy to continue working together for the successful implementation of the strategy to be. Floor back to you.
Thanks a lot, Paola, for sharing us where do we stand with the European Textile Strategy and the Circular Economy Action Plan. Thanks a lot. I would now like to invite our third speaker of today Delara Burkhardt. Are you there? She is a member of the European Parliament for the Social Democratic Party of Germany and currently mainly working on the topics climate and biodiversity protection and, of course, the circular economy. The floor is yours, Delara.
Thank you very much for the invitation. And of course, a lot of things, happens when you're the third speaker, already have been touched upon. So I will maybe highlight some points that are crucially important for my perspective as a member of the European Parliament when it comes to circularity in textiles. So maybe put it in general, textiles, whether clothing, but also other products, they are literally our second skin. They surround us every day. And we know that right now the fashion industry, the textile industry is mostly unsustainable and not part of a holistic circular economy. I mean, this is only based on, you can already see this on the fact that the fashion industry has literally introduced more collections than there are seasons in a year. We know that the number of garments produced annually has doubled since 2000, while the quality of clothes is getting worse and worse and being really far away from anything that we could call ready for circular economy. And right now we see this, less than 1% of textiles are currently processed into new textiles. Thus, what we are doing basically every day is losing valuable raw materials. This has to end. It has to end when you have something like the Green Deal, which is the European model for sustainable development, which is basically designed to bring those together different aspects when it comes to circularity, environmental, social, and economic sustainability. And of course, circular economy has to play a major role and be a major part in managing the transition towards a social, economic, and environmental sustainability as we plan it in the Green Deal. And as you certainly are aware, the European Parliament already adopted a resolution and also put the pressure higher on the EU flagship initiative on the garment sector. During the previous mandate, I wasn't there then, which basically focused mainly on labor and environmental issues in the textile industry in third countries. But we also called on the Commission to promote the use of ecological and sustainably managed raw materials and the reuse and the recycling of garments and textiles within the EU. So I really I welcome the Commission's announcement to work on and also the current status on the textile strategy, which will come this year. And I really want to be clear here, what we need is a holistic approach. And we know that voluntary self-regulation is definitely not the answer anymore. We see it in different aspects. We see it, for example, when it comes to the fabrics and how they are made. We know that today more than 60% of textiles are produced out of synthetics, most as all we know out of polyester. And the worse the quality of our clothes becomes, the more difficult it is to recycle. Therefore, I think we need to start focusing on the design process. We need to expand eco-design requirements and finally widen the range of products like textiles. It will be a really, really crucial moment and on how we define sustainability and how serious we are on tackling the problem at source. So I strongly call for specific measures which apply to the textile sector, and we need to look at the production process as a whole and use intelligent product design that really aims for closing the loops. Whether fibers, yarns, or dyes, we need textiles that are designed to be reusable and repairable. The European Commission already said it will present the Sustainable Products Initiative during the end of this year, and I'm really very excited to see an ambitious approach there. We need to create conditions that make recycled materials more attractive and prevent new resources from being constantly wasted. And I think actually this also sounds quite logical, doesn't it? So what we want to do with the circular economy is to recycle waste, to obtain raw materials, and also make sure that products are designed to last and can be reused and recycled in order to have a higher value in their entire life cycle. And it is clear that if we raise our recycling target, create the conditionality for a high quality recycling system, we will obtain raw materials that instead of ending up in a landfill, they will enter in the cycle and in the market. And therefore, I also need EU-wide quantitative targets for material and consumption footprint reduction, as well as also as targets on waste prevention, reuse, and recycling, which would be a complete paradigm shift. It would mean that waste has a value and that waste is not a burden anymore, but really becomes an economic asset. And if it is an economic asset, it means that we will pay more attention to it, both when we recycle it at home and also when companies begin manufacturing the process. So moreover, this means that we will create new jobs and create an economic value. So I am convinced that concrete legislative action will decide whether sustainable clothes will only be a lifestyle for a specific group of people, or it will be the normality for everyone in Europe and beyond. So as the closing remark, this also has already been touched on, I would like to emphasize the need of a definition of certain terms that are used as marketing labels, such as sustainable, eco-friendly, biodegradable. All these terms are already used on products to guarantee the better and environmental friendly decision for the consumer. So we need to make sure that we avoid greenwashing and misleading information on that. That's why I think we need a clear definition in this regard. And consequently, I support the call for more transparency along the supply chain. And I think the idea of a digital product passport is very interesting to extend on. Which wouldn't be only a useful tool for the consumers, but also during the entire life cycle of the textile industry. So let me close with that I don't think, and I don't wish for a world without clothing is not possible. We need a holistic approach on circular economy to reduce environmental and climate impact of textile production and consumption. We need effective action in the areas of materials, fabrics, design, production, distribution, use, reuse, collection, and recycling, the whole cycle. And Europe must move to a circular model of production and consumption that respects our planet's limits. And for that, it's crucial that we have legislation on a European level, and we have now the chance with the Green Deal. And I will stop my contribution here, and I'm very excited about all the inputs today, but unfortunately, I would have to leave you later for the Q&A, so because we have plenary week right now, so feel free to contact me if there are any questions.
Thanks a lot, Delara. I totally agree with you that we need a holistic approach, need legislative actions, and we need all of you here, all stakeholders, to close the loop. Thank you very much, Delara, for your interesting presentation. The last speaker of the policy panel is Gerard Kreutzer from Austria. He is the chair of the Sector Committee Textile and member of the Industrial Policy and Social Dialogue Committee. Gerard, the floor is yours.
So, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you see my slides on the screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. They are not very important in my talks, but there are sources for some later on researchers. So I welcome, and I have to speak in the name of the ESC today. So that's a pleasure for the ESC to be invited in this talk. And also we welcome these initiatives. And I want to congratulate the organizers and the co-organizing organizations for this platform. We know this is a very challenging time at this time, and the EU textile strategy is at the right time at the moment. So some of us are still dealing with the COVID crisis and try to solve all the national problems. But on the other hand, the European policy is going on and has to go on, because we have to use this small window of opportunity now to try to make a change in a different industrial and in our way of life in Europe, so to say. And so in that sense, the textile strategy fits into in the long-term perspective to going sustainability and CO2 fair. And so the Green Deal is the big picture to go into, and so the textile strategy fits into that. So, and it's also in line with how to say a big trend in the consumer side and also the public society. All these topics of green and be environmental friendly is very high on the agenda. So in that sense, it's excellent to be here. And the ESC by itself and by its composition, it's a multi-stakeholder platform already. So we represent the worker side. We have delegates from the employer side and the industry, and we also have representatives from the different public interests groups. And so that by itself makes the ESC as a multi-stakeholder platform. And so we did a lot of work already in the past times on industrial change and different sectoral approaches. And so we already have some opinions and some drafted papers in that direction. So when I want to just underline some of them today. And I want to raise and bring the ESC as a consultative partner and already an cooperated partner for the next step. So from my background, I'm a trade unionist in my national work, and I'm dealing with industrial change on the company level and also on the social partner level with the employers organization. And I think that's the crucial point when we have a big change ahead of us, then we have to bring everyone on board. I think that's very important for this strategic change. And if we see on this, of course, this when we're facing this textile industry by itself, everyone knows it use a lot of water and chemicals and so on, and it was always seen as an industrial sector by itself. And now I think we have to make a holistic approach and have to bring together all the players inside of the industry. So there's no more the brand and the manufacturer, and that's done. So we have to organize communication between both of them. And we also have to bring the intelligent product design on board. And when we think on life cycle, it's not only the end of selling a product and selling the product, that's a part of the life cycle. So I think we have to bring also the waste management, the resource managing sectors and recycling experts all together on a common platform. And that's in that sense, we welcome the platform initiatives, and I think that's an excellent way to go. So when we see the textile sector by now, and when we're looking our goals, then it means that there's a big challenge and a big change, and we have to there's a need for a lot of investments and new innovation by itself. So and today I expect, and today we see that the technique is already available. So when we look on digitalization and we look on, so for all this life cycle of a product, it's need to have a transparent background of information, of technical informations as well. So and this kind of informations should be kept in the system as well. So when we think on this recycle and life cycle model, it means from a cradle to cradle. That means that we have to think on new partnerships between actors inside of this supply chain, value chain. So that means there will be new industrial relationships inside of this recycling and life cycle system. So for all of these changes, I think, of course, and the ESCs by itself, by the composition of different interest groups, the ESC could play an important role on ongoing monitoring and supporting and going with this change process. So the different interest groups inside of the committee are an added value, and that makes the ESC as a kind of a valuable source for policymakers by itself. So I don't go into deep into all of our opinions, but in my presentation I have just listed some initiatives and some published papers, so you can later on go into that and study a little bit more. So what we see is, of course, it's important to see, and it's good to see that textile as an important ecosystem was elected. So, and the name ecosystem by itself gives more of importance than before. So textile was seen as a low-tech product, mainly sourced from Asia and somewhere around in the world. And nowadays, I think it's good to see that this is an ecosystem, and we should use and reuse these important resources and materials. So the life cycle of textiles to improve that is excellent to see. We see this business model of fast fashion failed, especially during the COVID crisis. We have seen that this model of more faster every week new designs. So that means that the industry by itself was overheated, and that is also not good for the small and medium-sized enterprise in Europe. So in Europe, we have still 1.8 million people working in the textile and clothing industries, and around 600,000 companies, and most of them are small and medium-sized. So we have to see that this initiative could also bring a level of playing field, a fair level of playing field, also for these small and medium-sized enterprises based in Europe, and they are doing a good job in the whole day. So I think that could also bring some fairness into this industry. So what we need is, of course, a change in how we design and manufacture textiles, and that means that for the workers, it's a big need of new skills, and also a big need of new skills for the people are in the waste management and resource management industries. So they are normally used with glass, paper, metal materials, and textile is new. So it's crucial to find the different fibers, types of textiles, and to collect and find out how to manage. It will also be important to find new rules in accounting for the companies. So if you have a product and you don't sell it on the market, but you give it in the recycle process, that means something for the accounting. We need, of course, rules of stake management and waste management. And I think we should also have a look on the regional aspects. Most of the textile industry is based in clusters, in regions. So maybe it's also important to bring actors in the region together. And last point from my side is we have to maybe have an eye on the public procurement and public side of using textiles, and also not only speaking on textiles as a personal good. Textile is also used in industry. Textile is used in a lot of in workwear, and also industrial textiles are used in many times. So maybe we should also think about stimulating the professional users of textiles for putting their wastes into the system of recycling. So I just share the slides afterwards, and you can research the positions of the ESC. We have done a lot in researches in sectoral field, but the main message is, of course, if you want a big change and if you want to have everyone on board, and that doesn't mean it's only the manufacturer and the retailers, it's more about the consumer side. It's also about the young people. It's all about the financial sector. So you need investments for these industries. And it means that the engagement and involvement of different players is crucial. And so the ESC by itself is open to bring some of this expertise into this process. So thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you, and I stop sharing my slide. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Jared, for sharing your thoughts and information. I would like to thank all four panelists. And I was wondering, Jana, are there already any questions in the chat that we can ask one of the four policy panelists?
Yes, thanks, Mika. Hello, everyone. I'm Jana from RREUSE, one of the co-organizers. We have quite some time before the second panel, so we thought we will use it to have already a bit of interaction. So I will just share briefly the comments and the questions from the chat. I will also invite the panelists to turn on their cameras during the panel discussion. So first of all, there was a lot of interest in the manual for municipalities, which Emil shared. And he also kindly shared his email address in the chat, and we'll be also sharing the slides. So if you're interested, you will definitely receive the link. Secondly, there were comments supporting Paula in that it's crucial to support SMEs as part of the transition to the circular economy for textiles. Also to Paula, there was a question if there is a list of upcoming initiatives related to circularity on textiles, like environmental performance of products, sustainable claims, eco-design, etc. So maybe if this could be also shared after the event, or if there is a link to a website, we can make that available. And then there is one question directly to Paula, I would say. And I would also like to invite the other panelists to reflect on that if they want. And if not, I have a second question. So the question to Paula is, if the EU will put limits on PFAS, or I guess we can say harmful chemicals in general in textiles, will our non-EU competitors do the same things? Or how do you think it will affect the market, the international market, for example? So this is the question. If the other speakers want to react to this as well, they can. Or I would be interested to hear your opinions on targets, because Emil presented some very interesting targets on reuse and recycling. So for Gerard, Delara, Emil, but also Paula, if you want to comment on that, you're very welcome. And we have some 12 minutes before the second panel, so I guess 3 minutes each.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'll try to address as much as possible without, be too extensive on this. So currently, there's not really a place where you have all the key measures for textiles. This is why we're actually adopting a strategy. So as I said, we look at it as a strategic framework that pulls together all the initiatives that will impact the sector, all initiatives or mandatory, voluntary measures, different instruments. So this is exactly how we see the textile strategy to be. This document that will offer on somehow a mapping of what exists, what it is upcoming. This is on one side. For issues on chemicals, I think the textile strategy, so really consider the textile strategy not as an instrument in itself, okay, but as a policy document. This is very important. I don't want to raise false expectations, and end of the year you have all the solutions to traceability, to microplastics, to EPRs. This is very, very important. Even if it is, I've also read a comment, redundant somehow, all these events. We always say the same things, but we are working to put into place this instruments, so it takes time. So expect policy documents that announces and pull together what is upcoming. For the substances, I think you can expect some measures under the Sustainable Product Policy initiatives. I mentioned it, the development of a digital product passport that addresses, at least in intentions, the issues of traceability of substances. So some of the elements of the substances, of which substances are present in products, which are allowed and not allowed, would come very likely as a consequences to this instrument that will not be in place by the end of the year, but is starting to take shape and then will happen in the implementation, in the course of the implementation of the strategy. And the last point was on targets, if I'm not mistaken. I really appreciated myself a lot that presentation and the clarity and the idea to have some goals. We have, and it's not just my personal views at the commissions, we also have, we're going to have a specific workshop devoted to developing goals with industry. There are some goals that already are in legislation, so those are the mandatory, those are the targets. For example, I'm thinking about some milestones on the separate collections. We will see how we can set up real targets, but those will come, as I said, through the legislative process if they concerns recycling or other item of the sort. I'm thinking about GPP, the willingness to have mandatory targets for GPP. I cannot promise now. I think you need to keep in mind that we want also to develop those targets in a way that they are, they can be implemented, they can be respected, they can be reached. So dialogue with industry is also important. So again, by the end of the year, a process that starts in maybe selecting some setting up these targets. There are goals, ambitious goals. I think the most ambitious one is to make the sector to become more circular. This is already would be a very good one with concrete measures.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Paola. Well, speaking of the targets, I would maybe ask Emil if maybe you could share some thoughts on the implementation or on the process in the Netherlands, since that's more advanced.
Yes, for us in the implementation, what is very important is, of course, the EPR scheme, but it will not solve all questions, because EPR in a basis is a very linear way of thinking. EPR is making the producer responsible for the waste, and waste is still a linear way of thinking. So what I would like is that EPR would be based on a more circular European framework. Now it's based on the waste framework. It should be based on something else. So it makes the producer responsible not only for the waste, but for the product which is put on the market and the complete time it is on the market. So that would be that is something I would like to stress. And as said, we are in our implementation, we are looking at a holistic and a cooperative approach with all stakeholders in the industry. And if that doesn't help, we need to work towards more regulation, etc. But first, we want to do it together with all partners in the supply chain.
Okay, thanks a lot, Emil. Also, yeah, very good point on the EPR, which also is a very good bridge for us to let you know that there will be another event of these EU Circular Talks just focused on EPR on the 21st of September, so keep your eyes peeled. Gerald, would you like to comment on any of what was said?
Yes, so I'm not too deep in the technical things, so I'm more on the policy level. So, but when we see that there is a clear vision where to go, I think, and already that was said, it's not the end of the it's not the solution by itself, and no one could expect that the Commission brings a paper and everyone is inside and no, it's a blueprint to do it. So it's more or less, it's a strategy, it's an initiative, and then we have to make a way on step by step. And so I think it's important to bring all the actors together, and this platform is excellent to see, and also the role of the coordination group is important to bring the stakeholders on table and together. And we when we come to competitiveness, of course, at the moment the business model is production in low wage countries and reselling in Central European markets and global markets, and so that's the business model by itself in the industry should be redesigned. And when we go as Europe, so Europe is one of the largest producer in textiles and fabrics and fashion. So that means that there is a lot of power inside, and all the big multinational brands, most of them are sitting in Europe. So if the front runners are going ahead, that will bring also change in different regions of the world, and so the competitiveness will also be not as crucial as at the moment. So it's not strict rules in Europe, and the rest of the world can do what they want. So it means that the big multinational brands, they are all around the globe. So that means, and they also welcome these initiatives. I think the initiative is in line with the consumer trends, and also most of the big multinational brands are they don't want to be a dirty industry. So that's not the interest of the industry by itself. So and when it comes to the new definition of waste, we did a study on critical raw materials in the ESC some months ago, and the list of the Commission monitoring the critical raw materials is based on mainly metals, and we raised the point that it's not only on critical raw materials, it's also about secondary critical raw materials and the value of waste, and so that need to be redesigned and a rethink for that. And so I mentioned the point of accounting. So if you throw something away, it's waste, and you have to kill it in your accounts. But if it's a product for another cycle, it means that there's a value. And my former speaker said already that there should be no greenwashing. So if you have a product is sustainable and environmentally friendly, that means also maybe another price on the market for the consumers, but you have another added value with this kind of product. So if there's a value inside, then that could also bring much more money for the enterprises. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Gerald, and thanks a lot to everyone. Just 2 quick points from the discussion in the chat. Again, it was highlighted that we need to also have the dialogue with the non-EU countries, in particular with Asia, when dealing with greening the textiles industry. And also there was a point raised on the need to address the consumers and the behavioral change, which was also tackled in your presentations. Emil also presented that there is a strong focus on campaigning and raising awareness, as well as Paula, and addressing the fast fashion and young consumers. So I will have to leave the Q&A for the moment here. We will move on to the next panel, but for the moment, thanks a lot to all of you, and hopefully you will be able to stay with us almost until the end, if not completely. And I will hand over to Mieke.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jana. Thanks, Paola. Thanks, Emil and Gerard, for this interesting first part of the webinar. We now arrive to the second part of the webinar. With us are 6 stakeholders from different types of textile organizations that will each share in a maximum 5 minutes their thoughts on how EU policy can drive circularity. The first speaker of today is Guido Lena from Italy. He's director for the Sustainable Development in SMEunited since November 2018. Guido, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm very happy to be that SMEunited is one of the co-organizers of this event. I think it's important because, as it was said before, SMEs are the big part of the European textile sector, and so they need a particular attention particularly with the view of the upcoming strategy. 2 words on SMEunited, who we are. We are the organization representing craft and SMEs to the European institutions. We have around 65 members divided in national horizontal SME organization and European SME branch organizations. We only and exclusively represent SMEs. We are also European social partners. Apart from being involved in this group, we also replied to the roadmap on the future strategy for sustainable textiles, and we plan to reply to the public consultation and also probably write a position paper. So I was actually asked to indicate the bottlenecks of textile retailers. So I took as a point of view the shop around the corner. These are generally micro businesses with 1, 2, 3 employees maximum. So it's clear that we have to develop actions on the basis of the think small first principle in order to be sure that the system in place is simple to operate, unbureaucratic, and preferably cheap. So what we have to avoid is that the system is so complicated and expensive that there's a tendency to get rid or dispose of old clothes in the normal waste stream, while they should be reused or recycled. So I think there's a definitely need of local value chain, local structures which take care of the old clothes and reuse them and recycle them. And there's also need in a certain way of a lot of, or some of awareness raising and training for the shop owners and the employees that old clothes shouldn't be simply disposed of in the normal bin, but should be treated in another way. So to make things simpler, as I said before, and avoid that all these ends up in the normal waste bin, a proposal could be, for example, that these small shops don't have to go to the other side of the town to dispose of their clothes and leave them in a recycle center, but maybe that these clothes, old clothes, can be collected shop by shop, as it happens with the normal waste, with plastic, with aluminium, with papers. That would save a lot of time to these people. Another proposal is that the system and the fee that they have to pay to dispose of their old clothes are definitely very, very small, so that they don't have the tendency or are not tempted to get rid of these old clothes in another way. So as I said, make the simple in a certain way, very easy to implement and less costly and unbureaucratic. I think that apart from these, there's anyway a framework discussion that was also hinted before. That's very important. Without this framework discussion, the whole system at local level cannot work. What I mean is that textile, as it is now, can be very difficult to recycle because you have a lot of materials put together. You have objects, you have pearls, you have microplastics. This is the first issue. The second issue is we need that the recycling in the end produces high quality material, which is in the amount required by industry to be used. And third, that we need companies, we take the risk to use these secondary raw material, insert them in their products, sell them on the market, and people buying them. So what I would propose is then you need the research and development to be able to recycle most kind of textiles, that you need that these high quality material cost, secondary raw material costs less than the primary materials, otherwise there's no scope. And then you need also, in a certain way, campaigns to address the population and ask them or explain them the needs and the reasons and the advantages of using this secondary raw material and why they should buy these clothes with secondary raw material. So I think my key points are said, and I finished my intervention. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Guido. Thanks a lot for your thoughts and, well, interesting insights. The second stakeholder I would like to invite is Emily McIntosh. She is Policy Officer for Textiles. She's part of the Circular Economy team of the European Environmental Bureau. Emily, what would you like to share with us?
Hi there, everybody. Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation to take part today. So yeah, my name is Emily McIntosh from the European Environmental Bureau. We're the largest network of environmental citizens organisations in Europe, with over 170 members in over 35 countries. So the points I would like to make are, the main point, of course, is, as has been said, not enough action is being taken to rein in the textile sector's shocking levels of pollution, waste, resource extraction, and of course human rights violations. And as we've seen over the last 18 months since the start of the pandemic, COVID has compounded existing labour injustices which were there before. And when I say COVID has compounded, of course, I mean brands' responses to COVID. So when we talk about policy measures, the policy measures taken at the EU level on the textile sector are currently limited, scattered, and they vary in relevance to textile value chains. So it's clear that the voluntary approach has failed. So voluntary measures haven't been successful in bringing the sector in line with planetary boundaries. And an unregulated industry where greenwashing is very rife is misleading and confusing for consumers as well. And for example, when we're talking about greenwashing, just last week, Changing Markets Foundation published an investigation which showed that some of the biggest fashion brands are extensively greenwashing despite widespread continued dependence on the fossil fuel-derived synthetic fibres, the very fibres which propelled fashion overproduction over the last few decades. So clear uniform direction is needed so that we combine EU energy and climate policies with policy measures that tackle the embodied emissions and the social environmental externalities in our products. And in this respect, the textile strategy is therefore a really important opportunity to set the comprehensive policy framework that is needed to respond to the huge environmental and social injustices that we see along textile value chains. And of course, when we talk about textiles, as has been mentioned by other speakers, we're not just talking about clothing and fashion, we're also talking about technical textiles, household items, etc. Our approach at the European Environmental Bureau when it comes to the circular economy is that corrective measures that seek to merely clean up the current business model won't be enough. So what we mean by this is that only seeking to boost the secondary raw material market without looking at volumes and how much is being produced in the first place could actually lock us into economic activity that relies on a continuous supply of continuous levels of high production of clothing to supply recycling, essentially. So what we would like to see in the textile strategy is a whole host of measures and resource use reduction targets to change the very consumption culture that's been promoted to us as consumers, to ensure that clothes last longer and that they're also kept for longer. Because to remain within a safe operating space for humanity, i.e. to stave off the worst of climate change and create a more fair and inclusive world, a circular economy must be one where over-extraction of natural resources is addressed first and foremost by reducing the amount of materials that we pour into the circle in the first place. And when I say the circle, of course, I mean our economy. So that means that we need the measures in the EU textile strategy to come together with clear and binding EU material and consumption footprint reduction targets to reduce overall resource use. As without targets, there is a huge risk that circularity will not represent a real challenge to the current detrimental business model. And my last point is just to highlight to you that last month, the EEB, the European Environmental Bureau, we joined with 25 other civil society groups to launch our wardrobe change position paper, where we set out a series of recommendations that we hope can inspire the future EU strategy for textiles. And in this paper we set out, I will share the link, so I invite you to read it. We set out 4 ingredients for the future of textiles. So the first ingredient is to make sustainable textile products the norm. So starting with the products and production processes themselves. So this is looking, of course, at Ecodesign standards, better production processes, restricting hazardous chemicals, banning destruction of products, and a digital product passport. The second ingredient is looking at the consumption culture, the economy in which these products are sold. So what information can complement minimum design standards, and how can we promote repair and reuse activities? The third ingredient is to really take the market interventions needed to leave the linear business model behind. And the last and fourth ingredient is to hold the EU textile industry accountable for its role in the world through strong human rights and environmental due diligence rules. Thank you very much, and I'll share our paper in the chat.
Thanks, Emily. It sounds like a long recipe with a lot of ingredients.
Yeah.
But it's a big challenge, yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot for your presentation. I would now like to invite Matthias Nitsch. He's a president of RREUSE, which is an international network representing social enterprises active in reuse, repair, and recycling. Matthias, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello. Nice to meet you all, at least in the chat. Yes, my name is Matthias Nitsch, and I am in my daily life, I am managing director of REPANET, which is a national network of social enterprises in Austria, which are active in reuse and repair. But today here I have the honor to be here as the president of the European Reuse Network, which is the same on the European level. So it's a network of 28 members in 30 EU member states, and these 28 doesn't sound very much, but these 28 members have 850 members of their own networks in these 30 countries with more than 100,000 employees, 2,200 shops, reuse shops, where they sell reused goods, among them textiles, with 39 million customers, which is about the population of Poland, so one of the bigger EU countries, and a turnover of more than 1 billion euro. And our network in Europe is collecting 1 million tons of material which are diverted from landfill and made available for reuse, repair, recycling activities. And a quarter of that, a little bit more than a quarter, it's 257,000 tons of textiles are among this 1 million tons. So we are one of the biggest players in the textile collection in Europe. And therefore, anything that is happening there is crucial for our business. And what is our business? Our business is not mainly to collect things and repair them and make them available for a second lifetime, but our main business is to include people which are disadvantaged or on the labor market into that labor market and give them a second chance to include themselves into the society and participate in society as valued working people. And this is the goal. The main goal of our members is that social and poverty prevention goal, and the reuse, and especially the textile collection and reuse business, is our tool to serve our main goal, which is the social goal. So the textile strategy, the European textile strategy, and anything happening in that realm is very affects us a lot, and affects us also in our social work. And this shows how interconnected the social aspect and the circularity aspect and the just transition aspect and the environmental and waste management aspects are. And so if you invest €1 of funding money into one of our members, then you will address 3 or even more policy fields like environment, social, just transition, and all these kind of things. So that is what we do, and that is why we are quite engaged in the current discussions about future textile policies. And our perception is that what we currently face is an unfair competition in the textile collection and recovery sector between the social organizations, the social enterprises, which were historically the first of collecting textiles in Europe or in the world, probably. One of our national members in Austria is the Red Cross, and I think they started somewhere around the 50s or 60s to collect textiles for their social causes. And so we are among the first to do that, and now more and more private actors are entering the market. So with lack of transparency, but still they argue with social arguments, and they say say that you have to give a donation to them, but they are private enterprises. And it is not easy to determine for consumers who is who. So that is one aspect which could be a problem, more so in the future. Then the quality decline of the current collection of textiles, more and more fast fashion, more rising quantities, decreasing qualities, which make reuse, which is actually the economic backbone of textile recovery, make it economically more and more difficult every year. And then people are more and more willing to sell their used clothes if they are more valuable pieces. So they are selling that on private internet platforms instead of donating it. That is also a challenge for us. And now we have the discussion on EPR schemes in Europe. We are not absolutely against EPR, but we also do not think we are critical concerning EPR. We do not think that an EPR scheme will solve. EPR schemes will not solve the problem of overconsumption. Will not solve the problem of more every year producing more and more with using more and more primary and secondary resources. So recycling won't solve the problem, and EPR schemes won't solve that problem. EPR schemes can solve problems. They can solve the cost problem because recycling is economically not feasible. This is why it doesn't happen, actually. So if you want recycling, you have to make an EPR scheme or something like that to ensure the financing of that, like it has been with packaging, with electronic and electric waste. All these things had to be financed because recycling was not economically feasible, and the same is the case with textile. What is economically feasible is the reuse of textile, but this is threatened, as I said, by more and more quantity with lower quality. So if we create EPR in Europe, then these EPRs should be maybe limited only to the recycling part of the textile recovery, and leave the reuse part exclusively for the social enterprises as a kind of donation facility to finance poverty prevention and social inclusion in Europe. So that could be a model which we would like to see. Since EPR schemes are usually owned by the industry, they reflect the interests of industry. And but I think the public interest and the civil society interest also have to be respected in the future textile strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthias, for your presentation and emphasizing on the importance of the social aspect and the EPR on recycling, but not on reuse. The next speaker is Mariska Zandvliet. She's the president of the EuRIC Textiles, which is the textiles branch within the European Recycling Industries Confederation. And she's also president of the Dutch Association for Textiles Reuse and Recycling. Welcome, Mariska. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mieke, and good morning to everyone. Thank you for introducing me, for pronouncing my name right, but you're also Dutch, so that's probably easy. Yeah, you've mentioned correctly that I'm here as president of EuRIC Textiles and also president of the Dutch Textile Recycling Association. In my working life, I have been involved in recycling, well, as a matter of fact, collecting, sorting, and recycling textiles for over 20 years. So I can also say quite a few things from the industry perspective there. Just something short on EuRIC Textiles, as we are also co-hosting this event, which is my great honor and pleasure to do so. EuRIC Textiles is the youngest branch of the European Recycling Confederation, in short EuRIC. We have been founded 2 years ago, actually, and currently representing 12 member states. We are an association of associations. So our members are either national associations or they're companies in lieu when there's no association active in that country. So again, my pleasure to co-host this very interesting webinar so far with all of you. I will try to keep my views on circularity in textiles and how that can be driven by European policy rather short, if possible. Time-wise, I think we are a little bit tight there. So for us, it's important then when we speak about circularity in textiles to mention that all actions that actually increase sustainability after textiles have been discarded are considered circular. So when we are looking at this whole process, we have to look at all stages, from collecting these discarded textiles up to upcycling them into new garments, which is the ultimate goal towards circularity. So EU policy measures can be implemented to drive the circularity at different stages. And to determine which measure is then needed where and when, we should be looking at all these phases of the textile waste management process. Big process, long process, but can roughly be divided into 3 stages to make it easy for this morning. Stage 1 is then the collecting of discarded textiles. From our point of view, optimized reuse and also recycling can only be achieved when textiles are properly collected and handled after they are discarded. The great thing about textiles in comparison to other waste streams is that there is such a high percentage of reuse potential. But this can only be achieved if they are properly collected and handled. Because again, if you try to mix them, for instance, with other waste streams, as there's been some experiments in the Netherlands a few years ago, then the textiles become, well, not fit for reuse or recycling anymore very quickly due to cross-contamination and other matters. So when looking at policy measures, actually 2025 is coming up, so that's a very important one when we're looking at the clean separation at the source. In 2025, all EU member states will be obliged to at least have a separate collection system for textiles. So this will ensure that it's separated from other household waste streams, which is essential to retain the value in the textile waste. From EuRIC Textiles point of view, we also advise that there will be standards set to harmonize collection systems to ensure the proper handling of the textiles. So due to 2025, the estimates are that the volumes of discarded textiles will be more than doubled. It is expected by 2029, we could be looking at 5.5 million tons of textiles collected in the EU each year. That is a huge, huge industrial amount. So in order to sort and to recycle these increased volumes, EU funds are needed to expand the current infrastructure for collection and sorting textiles, but also to invest in innovative recycling techniques. Another thing that comes with that is that textiles in most EU member states, when they are collected, they are waste, classified as waste. While the facilities to process, to sort, to recycle may be scattered over different member states. So it's very important that we ensure that the best treatment is possible. Currently, the waste shipment laws are sometimes preventing one member state to transport the textiles to the other member states where they can be properly sorted or recycled. From our point of view, it is essential to have a free intra-EU transport of textile waste. Then we go to the stage 2 after the textiles have been collected, properly handled, and so on. Textiles, they need to be reused as often and as long as possible, and I cannot stress this enough. I think Matthias also made a strong point out of this. That's really important because that is really the great thing about textiles. At the moment, nearly 50% of everything that is collected can be reused or worn again. The challenge is, though, because we are talking about a waste stream, that there is a huge diversity in textiles, because I keep saying textiles or clothing, but it's not just textiles that you find in the waste bin. It's everything from shoes to accessories to toys to you name it, anything that the consumer thinks is more or less related to textiles or clothing, they will throw away in a textile container. So the first challenge is to sort this on item basis and to make sure whether it is a single shoe even, or a belt, or a nice dress or sweater, that it gets a second life. And this can only be done through a professional sorting process. Again, firstly at item level to ensure optimized reuse. Sorry, for the policy measure, which is needed there to make sure that the textiles and clothing and what have you else can be reused as often and as long as possible, is to incentivize durability and longevity of the textiles. It is our belief that this can be enhanced through an EPR framework, but this needs to be a framework initiated at EU level. Then when we're looking at the textiles, it's 50% that can be reused or worn again. We should also take into consideration that of that 50%, only 10 to 50% is suitable to be reused within the EU. This is 10 to 50% of the quality that is suitable for second-hand markets in the EU, and that will be you will be able to sell that again. That also means that 35 to 40% of the textiles are destined, suitable, and very much needed elsewhere in the world. So to secure access to global second-hand market for sorted used textiles customized to meet the demand of the market is also essential from our point of view. So when textiles are no longer fit to be reused or worn again, they need to be recycled. Matthias pointed out also very correctly that recycling is economically not feasible at the moment. It costs money. When you have a sorting plant, the reusable textiles have to finance the recycling of the textiles. Why is that? Currently, two factors prohibiting textile recycling. One, technically complicated. There's, as I said before, an immense diversity in post-consumer textiles, but also when looking at just a single garment, it may be multiple layered. It will have mixed fibers. So that makes it very difficult to separate all of that and to have pure streams that you can feed into the recycling. Secondly, economics don't work. The virgin fibers are much cheaper than recycled fibers, and this is posing a problem. It is my personal belief that in 5 years' time we will be looking at a totally different playing field, because you see a lot of emerging technologies at the moment for chemical but also for mechanical recycling that are really moving fast now. But they will only be able to upscale to industrial levels when there is an end market for recycled textile fibers. The demand must be created. I think from speaking from my industry point of view, now we have been pushing this market for a long time, and we need a pull. We need a demand from producers who are willing and able to pay for recycled textile content. How can policy measures push this. They should promote recyclability and the use of recycled content through eco-modulation in an EPR framework, or even, and that would be my preference actually, to make the use of a percentage of recycled content in new textiles mandatory. Yeah, those were my main points. So I'm going to hand the floor back to you, Mika. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mariska. Thank you for sharing the barriers, but also the EU policy measures that are needed specifically for reuse and recycling. Thanks a lot. Our next speaker is Baptiste Carrière-Pradal. He is the chair of the Policy Hub, a joint initiative between multiple organizations in the textile apparel sector, who come up with one progressive common voice at a political level. Baptiste, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mika, for this introduction, and thanks a lot also to RREUSE for organizing and co-organizing this event today. We're very pleased at the Policy Hub to see already so many people gathering to be able to discuss those topics. There is so many dramatic change that will need to happen, so many systemic change that will need to happen, that we really embrace those concepts where you always have all of the different parts, may that be civil society, may that be different organizations that come together to be able to tackle that jointly. I could already have echoed many of the mentions that were, and many of the suggestions that were made by SMEunited, having in mind that when we talk and we work together, we know that many of the players will be indeed small organizations, and that all what we know, what we do, need also to be able to be applicable for them. Because without them, this change cannot happen. And also hearing what Emily mentioned from EEB, there is so many things that we could agree from, so many good and solid recommendations that were made. And we look forward to be able to collaborate further with all of those organizations in the next step. At the Policy Hub, to give you also a bit of a concept of who we are an organization like RREUSE now has been operating for 2 years, and which aim indeed at bringing together all of the progressive voice of the industry. Our members will be the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, Textile Exchange, Global Fashion Agenda, the Federation of the European Sporting Goods Industry, and ZDAC, organizations that for many of them have been working together for the last 10 or 20 years to be able to see how already all of the change that we need to see doesn't happen at one organization level, but at a much more systemic level. So did the voluntary initiative produce all of the change that they wanted to see happening? No, we didn't see all of the change needed to happen. Let's not throw the baby with the water of the bath, as we would tend to say in French. And let's try to see that from all of the immense number of knowledge and experience that all of those initiatives have been able to harness over the last 10 or 20 years, what can we take? What can be improved? And on the contrary, what didn't work on those voluntary initiatives and definitely needs to be able to be regulated? And to this end, when we see the textile strategy coming up, we also have high expectation. As Paola Magliorini mentioned, we know that indeed it will be an overarching document that will be able to give some element. But for us, it's paramount that as we look at these elements, it's definitely comprehensive. And that when we will look at this textile strategy, it will help us to identify, for instance, from all of the horizontal discussion which is happening right now, might that be on due diligence or other topic, what could be the type of guidelines needed to see those happening to our sector? So how do we see the complementarity of those horizontal conversation with actually the specificity of the textile sector? We need to make sure that indeed all of the topics that are impactful for our sector are covered into it, that we assess all of the different elements from the life stage of the product to the commercialization and all of those to make sure that nothing goes and is missing from this overall strategy. We need also to make sure that moving forward, it has clear and ambitious target. And this will be the key element that we need to see happening. Initially, indeed, there is a conversation about what are the bottlenecks of the industry and what are the bottlenecks to be able to move. Somehow, one of the bottlenecks could be a strategic bottleneck. Without having a clear direction about what impact do we want to really see reduced, how, what are the targets do we want to achieve, it will be very difficult to ensure that there is a cohesive and coherent approach with all of those elements. So really defining those common targets, common impacts, and really having a clear idea about what we want to achieve with it will be paramount for the entire success of the operation. And finally, we need harmonization, and harmonization across different elements. This is key to see this progress happening. We see indeed, and we understand that many countries, many member states want to go further, want to already start to develop some things, may that be on EPR, may that be on transparency. But without having an extremely solid harmonization, we will not be able to achieve what we want. When a retailer produced a garment, a textile, whatever, a t-shirt, they are not designing one for each of the country. They are designing one globally. So if we want to make sure that the regulation implemented doesn't become ultimately just a reporting exercise, but has actually an actual impact on the design of the product, we need to make sure that those requirements and this harmonization really happen at European level. This is particularly true when we talk about the EPR scheme, for instance. If we don't have very clear harmonization regarding definition, criteria, rule and requirement, we will not be able to ensure that the EPR scheme push in a good direction and that the brands, retailers and manufacturers can develop the proper strategies to be able to make sure that those will really give the impact that we want to see. So for instance, when we talk about eco-modulation, if we have different schemes pushing for different eco-modulation, incentivizing different approaches, we run the risk of ultimately not having that moving in a good direction. And same will go for infrastructure or other elements that will drastically need to have this element. When we look at transparency or other elements, we know that, for instance, linking back to content, we could virtually echo some of the conclusion that the report of EEB made, or that even some of the conclusion on transparency that the report of Changing Markets definitely very rightly outlined, that we will need to have a common approach and a very robust method to be able to evaluate the impact, and that only this one can go on transparency. And that also looking at all of the conversation happening at fiber level, it's really paramount to have a common database developed jointly by public-private work to be able to know once and more where we can have an information regarding the impact of fibers and other elements. And to also echo what MEP Burkhardt was mentioning, we also believe that the UCPD today doesn't go far enough and that we need to change the burden of proof and to make sure that ultimately such word as just calling a product sustainable or such need to be able to change, and that we need to have very strict elements regarding what can you say and really making substantiation of the claim paramount. And to finish very briefly, Mika, so one last point regarding also the Sustainable Policy Initiative. We are currently working on a common position for all of the players from all of the brands, retailers and organizations which are members of the hub, representing in total more than 50% of the industry, to be able to really make recommendation on this point. We agree indeed that there will need to be requirements at product level that will need to be implemented. And we are looking right now about what that could look like at a durability level. Indeed, wanting to see also how we can help elevate the durability of the products put on the market. And same question will come also in place of recycled content. What could that look like? Because we all agree that we need to see and we want to see the uptake of recycled fiber increasing and to have more recycled fiber included. So therefore, what that could look like. So in a month's time, we'll be able to come up with clear recommendation on those points, and we look forward to be able to share those with all of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Baptiste. We're looking forward to see these recommendations in a month's time. Thank you for your presentation. We now arrived at our final speaker of today, Roberto Vanici, with over 30 years experience in innovation for textile clothing and mechanical textile recycling. He's the multi-sectoral research and innovation manager for the Centroco multi-sectoral research and innovation department. Welcome, Roberto.
Thank you.
We are very interested to hear what you have to say. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your invitation. Thanks to SMEunited to invite me. I think that I have to share my screen or not. Please, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but your screen is still black.
I don't know, because it doesn't
Seems like
work.
it's loading.
Yes.
Maybe your internet is slow.
I see that this is running, but it's not okay. Waiting for, just not to lose time. I'm Roberto Vannucci. I'm responsible for Centrocot multi-sectoral research and innovation department. Centrocot is a textile center in north of Italy, near Milan, and We are more than 100 highly qualified employees serving the textile sector and provide, I don't know if you can...
We can now see your screen. Not your presentation yet, but we can see your screen.
No, yeah. I don't know why.
So if you go to PowerPoint, I think your
No, I have no PowerPoint, so just to... Okay. No, I cannot. Sorry, this is okay. So I think that this is better. I don't know why I'm not able to share my complete screen. I think you see in a small picture. I don't know, but even no matter about that. So we provide the services to small and medium enterprises. We have more than 2,000 customers per year, about a quarter outside of Italy. So we have just a vision of the needs from this company to approach the circular economy. In particular, in these times, to approach recycling, but not only. Many of the things that I mind I've already said by the previous speakers both during the first and the second session. Perhaps I repeat something. Of course, textile products are a complex product. We have several fibers, materials together, some often in intimate mixture. The fiber that we used are mainly plastics, polyester, the main, and the cotton. And both, even though cotton is natural, both are not sustainable feedstock. One because not renewable material, the other one because to growing cotton we we consume a lot of water. And as from my point of view, biomaterials are more and more used, but we have to think that sometimes also biomaterials are not sustainable too. For instance, as regards biodegradability and compostability. This, for instance, is a test. We sell mainly test and certification for textile materials, and we receive day by day requests for testing all fibers, let's say, as regards biodegradability and compostability. And this is an issue that the companies are asking us. A second one is that, as already said, also this thing that making up is an industrial process, although with a lot of human labor. Why the dismantling, the collecting, the dismantling, and recycling of the textile is not an industrial process until now. In particular, recycling, the only that is working is the mechanical one. The chemicals one are still in developing, as someone before me already said. We expect that in the next years we'll have a lot of improvement on technology. But until now, the fiber that coming from recycling are more expensive and with lower quality of the recycled one, the virgin one. Sorry. We have to also take into account that chemical processes to recycle could have a huge impact on the environment. So I think that are two all bottlenecks for the industry as regard the recycling. That is the main topic that we are facing looking at the circularity, because this is my personal opinion, but I share this with other people. Ecodesign is very difficult, not in terms of technical, but in terms of we need to have good textile goods like clothes, but not only, with high performance, and we need to have a mixture of fiber with their specific characteristics, and we need to use a lot of chemical substances. Sometimes hazardous or exiting from the market for their hazardous. So we need to invest and to start investigate and search for new technology a lot. Thanks for your attention, and sorry for my trouble in sharing my video. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Roberto. Could you please stop sharing your screen?
Sure, thank you. It seems that now it works. Okay.
Yes, it's perfect. Thanks a lot for your words. I would now like to invite Jana. She will lead the Q&A for the last part of this morning's program. Jana, which questions popped up?
Thanks, Mika. So first of all, thanks to all of you. You're being very active in the chat and actually having a really interesting discussions, which I will not be able to share entirely, but I just want to highlight a few comments which were made, and then we have a few questions directed at the stakeholders. So again, there was a point made regarding the need of change, focusing on consumers' behaviors and changing the consumers. Also, there was a little exchange about taxation to make second-hand and circular textiles more attractive by lowering VAT, supporting repair, second-hand, etc. Where there was an interesting comment on that maybe the VAT could promote those who are in the, let's say, circular business model, and those who are lagging behind and they're still in the linear or overconsumption focused model, they could be disadvantaged. There was a point on education and starting already in schools to also make the change, the consumer change and behavioral change really happen. And lastly, I will mention that there was a point on that water consumption also should be considered as an important indicator, not just CO2. And there have been some questions if this is considered water consumption in some studies on circular textiles, and I can see there are comments following this thread, so you can read it in the chat. And I have, I think, 3 questions to the different speakers. We have 10 minutes or 9 minutes until the end of the event. So I will invite the panelists to turn on their cameras, first of all. And I will ask you to be brief if possible. Thanks so much for that in advance. So first of all, a question to Matthias. Do you have any views on socials? You mentioned the social aspects and the different actors in the market. Do you have any views on social certification, which are used or could be used to differentiate the actors? I will just assign you the questions and then we will go one by one. Second question to Mariska. Is there any restrictions of transport of textiles in the EU in your experience, to your knowledge? And then we have a question to Baptiste regarding how much the EU brands which produce outside of the EU, how the textile strategy will affect them. how do you take responsibility basically for the productions which are not taking place in the EU? So I think we will start with these 3 questions. If we have a bit more time, I would also like to hear from the other panelists with the more general questions, but I will now give you the floor. So Matthias, if you can briefly respond.
Okay.
You're on mute, Matthias. Classic. It had to happen at least once. Still on mute.
Is that it won't react anymore.
Yes, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, you can hear me now. Okay, the reaction between the click and the activation is 5 seconds, so too many clicks. There is no so far on the international level no certification of social enterprises or social organizations, because they are absolutely diverse even within single countries. So the definition, what is a social enterprise or a social organization or a charity or a non-profit, is quite diverse. So there is not even a definition, and so there is also no international certification of that, as far as I know. On the national levels, there are certifications. I know of 2. We don't have any in Austria, which is my home country, but we have one in, I think it's Belgium or France or both. It's called Solidar. Solid and then a big R, so it's for solidarity, and also for the R is for reuse and recycling. So this is marked for social and enterprises which are active in the recycling or reuse activities. And there's in Germany for textile collection, social organization in the textile collection in Germany, we have a label called Verwertung. And this is also an umbrella organization, which is part of our European reuse network. So far, that's all I know. We have in Austria a label for social, for work integration social enterprises, but that is only Austria, and that is more or less showing the quality of the work integration work, but not generally. We don't have a social label. We have in some countries labels for donations, financial donations, so organizations where you can give financial donations. You can trust these organizations, so there are labels for that. And some of the textile collecting organizations also have these kind of labels in some countries, but there is nothing that can be generalized now.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Matthias. Also, if you want to post any of the names in the chat, you're very welcome if people want to find out more. Second, I will invite Mariska if she wants to respond to the point on shipment of waste.
Yeah, thank you, Jana. I can shortly respond to that. I already started writing an answer to Anna. So Anna, I hope you're listening, because I'm just now going to explain it by talking. She asked if there's any restriction on the transport of textiles within the EU. There's not a restriction, but it's very, very difficult. And that has to do, I will try not to get too technically complicated, but with the transport code, that's an international transport code. It's the B3030 code. This is a code that textile waste is transported under within the EU after it has been collected at a city or a municipality. And the description of the stream is incomplete. So if you read the description of the B3030 code, it says textiles, clothing, basically. But so if you find shoes in there, as I was explaining earlier, or toys or accessories, then it's considered waste, household waste, actually, by the country that it is being imported in, even if that country is also within the EU. So that is a little bit of problem, because you see a concentration, a specialization in several EU countries for instance, sourcing or for recycling. Don't ask me why, but for some reason, the Netherlands has the highest concentration of sorting plants for textiles. So yeah, in order to make sure that the textiles are sorted in a professional system and also recycled professionally, it should not matter in which EU member state this is done. It should be, easily. It should matter that it's done in a proper way. So but it has to do with the transport code and with the limited description of the waste stream in there. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, perfect. Thanks a lot, Mariska. And we will move on to the last question to Baptiste regarding the non-EU countries.
Yes, thank you, Jana, for that. So the question is around how will that affect brands which are not producing in Europe? If I understand well the question that was asked in the chat. So technically here, if I just look at all of the brands which are participating in the hub, there is a clear expectation that it has to apply. So that there is no limitation in geographical scope wherever the headquarters of the companies are or wherever the producers are, that these should apply to everybody. The idea of all of that is to create a very ambitious equal level playing field. So the idea is not to be able to have more demands for producers from factories in Europe versus factories in other countries, and also to a bit echo what Guido was saying regarding different SMEs. So I think it's very clear here that the idea, we look at that also, and we understand that there is many conversation that some of those regulation, whether it be due diligence or other, may go also as an internal market regulation. So we really see it like that. So that therefore, coming back to it, wherever the wherever the product is produced or wherever the company's headquarters, this has to apply exactly in the same way. We talk about requirement at product level in the EU market, and they will have to abide by the same rules.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks a lot, Baptiste. We have 3 minutes left until the end, so unfortunately we will not move into the wider discussion, but I want to thanks a lot to all the panelists for your sharing your experience. I will also post a link in the chat to the LinkedIn group where you can keep posting your comments and questions and publications. And please rest assured that we will be collecting everything what you sent in the chat and in the group, and we will include it in the final document from this event, which will be also shared with the ESC, with the European Commission. So it really, it will be all recorded. And I will hand back to Mieke. Thanks to the second panel.
You're on mute, Mieke.
Sorry for that. We now arrived at the end of this very interesting morning. I hope you all heard some new information or got inspired by our speakers. I would also like to thank you all for attending. This is the first of the 3 talks that we are organizing as a European Textile Leadership Group. And the second will be at September 21st on EPR, a topic which was spoken about a lot this morning. The second will be about circular design on the 9th of November. For now, I would like to thank you all. Please join us on our LinkedIn group, and hopefully we will see you soon in our next talks. Thank you all, and see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Is someone from the ESC here? I have a question.
Yes, it's Milda. Go ahead,
Hi,
Jana.
Milda. Is the chat recorded? And what was posted in the chat?
Yes, you can find actually all the, I don't know, do you have Teams app?
No, no.
No, okay. Because we have, I mean, I can see all of the questions in the Teams app. So I don't think we can get an extract of that.
Okay. I have almost everything copied, but I'll just maybe do it. I'll finish before we close the call. So.
Okay, we can leave the call open. Still have some attendees. Okay, but we leave the call open, no worries.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, good. I think I have it.
Okay, you have it all?
Yeah. Okay, so I will leave just in case I would need a backup. I guess it's in the app, so you can access it.
Yes,
case,
I can.
Yeah.
I have all the history, but in case you need anything, I can trace it back.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot, everyone, and I will leave as well. But thanks a lot for the organization.
Thank you too. Okay, we keep in touch.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.